Success in Real Estate with Frankie Griffin, owner and broker in charge of the Palmetto Success Team, certified residential specialist, accredited buyer representative, military relocation professional, real estate appraiser, and author of Success in Real Estate. If you are interested in buying or selling a home, investing in real estate, or having your home appraised, you will enjoy Success in Real Estate. Now, here's Frankie Griffin.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Success in Real Estate. I'm Frankie Griffin, broker in charge and appraiser. Thank you for joining in this morning. Got a great show lined up, really good information, I do believe. It is a little airish outside when I came into the studio, but Brian's got it nice and toasty in the studio, so it feels really, really good as he sits over there shivering. But no, we want to help you. That's what this show is all about. Week after week, we want to help you try to make very good, informed real estate decisions. So if there's anything we can do for you, any questions you have, or just a comment, love to hear from you. The number in studio is 803-799-8255, 799-8255. And would love to hear from you. I did have a guest lined up today, and he texted me earlier this morning. He had a family member pass away last night, so couldn't be here. But certainly our prayers are with Chris. And Chris, if you're listening, our prayers are with you. But we've got some things I do want to talk about. Really dealing with buyers, I guess, for the most part today, and some things that I believe would be really important for buyers to consider, and not just buyers, but I'm also going to be speaking to buyer agents as well. It's always important to make sure you understand the market that you're in today. And one of the things I think you're going to find is, we are moving into a seller's market, and I think we were sort of into a seller's market a little bit last year. Over the winter months, probably November, December, and even January, it kind of evened out where I believe we were kind of right on the fence. But now I'm seeing a lot of movement here just within the last couple of weeks. A lot more buyers are coming out onto the market. And our inventory is still very low, historically speaking. And when I say inventory, the number of houses for sale. So when you're looking for a really nice house, buyers, you may find your options are limited right now. There's just not a lot. Sellers have not put their house on the market. Maybe they're waiting for the springtime or maybe even the summer. But, it's a situation where buyers, you need to understand this. When you go out, when there's more buyers than sellers, of course, you understand the supply and demand. That's going to move things more in favor of the seller. And here's what I want to talk about. Because what we've been seeing for the last many years, probably 5 or 6 years, we've been in a huge buyer's market. And buyers have sort of gotten used to the fact that they can, for lack of better words, push the seller around, make what most might be. Well, let me do it this way. Most would probably consider it a lowball offer. Now I know buyers think their offers are perfect. It's a good offer, and then when there's a counter, sometimes we get a little bit annoyed. Well, I can't even believe they countered that. It was a good offer. Well, maybe not. In fact, right now I'm telling you, a lot of buyers are making offers, and they're just not good offers. And I've been hearing and experienced both, where sellers now, they just won't even respond to what the seller might consider a ridiculous offer or a lowball offer. So buyer, you need to consider that. And then when the seller rather does not respond at all, doesn't make a counter, just doesn't even want to respond to it because they're upset. You've offended them with your offer, and then you'll have them come back and say, well, it's not personal. It's just business. Just make an offer. I mean, have them counter back. Well, I'm just going to tell you, especially for any agents out there listening, I understand what you're saying. It's not personal, and it shouldn't be for agents, but it is for that seller. This is their home. They're proud of it. They know in their mind what it's worth, and for somebody to come in and make a low ball like that, it really sets a very bad tone. In fact, I can just tell you, buyer, even if you were willing to pay more, chances are seller's not even going to work with you now. Once you've offended the seller, now you got a problem. And see, the reason the sellers are now kicking back is because we're now in a seller's market, or certainly moving in that direction, and sellers know it. They don't have to settle for what the first buyer comes along and offers. There will be other buyers. Sellers know it. It's going to happen. And so they can just shrug one right off and just wait for the next. And now, if there's any agents out there listening, I'd love to hear from you. Call me. Tell me what you think. Are you not seeing the same things that I'm seeing? Because it's very common. Not only from the transactions that I've been dealing with personally, but just from listening to what other agents have been saying. I'd love to hear what you've got to say, and if you think I'm wrong, then tell me. But buyers, just be ready. The seller is now kicking back. They're not taking it anymore. And so what we're going to be dealing with for most of this show, excuse me, is, how buyers need to respond. And buyer, I'm just going to tell you, is probably now more than ever, if you've got an agent representing you, and I hope you do, you need someone experienced. And when I say experienced, even if they've only been licensed for the last 3, 4, 5 years, you're likely going to have an agent that has never operated in a seller's market. And it's a big deal. It's a big difference. And you can't do the same things you used to do in a buyer's market. Things are much, much different now. The absolute last thing you can do or want to do, assuming you want the house, is to offend the seller. Because they know they have other options and they're going to take it. It all goes back to the supply and demand. And we want to talk about on the other side, because I know we got a break coming up here in a few seconds, but on the other side of this break, we want to talk about the concessions. A lot of buyers will request seller concessions, primarily closing costs and stuff. And if that's something you need, buyer, you certainly need to listen or be involved with this next segment, because a lot of good things I'm going to be putting out about this, and it's going to be absolutely critical that you hear what I'm saying, because this is causing a lot of problems today. Love to hear from you. The number 799-8255. Be right back with some more Success in Real Estate.
9 FM and 1470 AM.
And now, the Mortgage Update with Erica Hill West on Success in Real Estate.
All right, good morning and welcome back to Success in Real Estate. I'm Frankie Griffin. Got Miss Erica Hill West, our mortgage go-to gal, is on the line with our mortgage update. So let's go ahead and get her up right now. How you doing, Miss Erica?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you, Frankie?
Oh, it's such a wonderful day today. Now, I got to tell you, it was a little airish when I was outside.
It is, but, it's good.
It is.
Fresh air, good fresh air.
Yes, that's what always positive. I like that. But then I walk inside, and Brian's got it nice and toasty here in the studio. So it's going to be a fine day today. There's no doubt. Yeah. Well, so glad you called, because some of the things I'm really kind of talking about today, in fact, I want to see if you've even, I don't know if you noticed this much, on the lending side, but, I just think we're moving into a seller's market where, buyers can't come in being all pushy and trying to choke the seller like we have been for the last several years. Sellers are kicking back. They know that there'll be another buyer behind you. I don't need to take your stuff. And are you experiencing or seeing that or hearing from other agents the same thing?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think home prices are up.
Yeah.
So that's going to start changing the buyer's power for sure.
Sure.
Because people aren't necessarily where they have been in the past, where they're just like, well, I just got to sell it. I just have to sell it. So I would encourage people to listen to your agent. They're educated to pool market analysis to see exactly what homes are going for and tell you what to offer.
Sure.
There's nothing worse than, going in and offering what you want to pay for it, and the seller just dismissing you altogether, not even responding.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was saying earlier in the first segment. And as we go through, in fact, I'm going to be getting into some of the things buyer needs to consider and how to put themselves in the best position to work with the seller. But one of those is involving you, and that is knowing what the buyer can do financially before we go in and start making offers.
Yeah.
And let me start with this question. I know you've answered it before, but a lot of people are still confused and not sure what the difference is. But what's the difference between getting pre-approved and pre-qualified, and does it matter?
It does matter. Pre-qualification, for lack of better terms, is important, but the lender and the loan officer is only looking at a credit report and the information provided to us by the potential borrower. If they are unsure and they're estimating some of those things, when actual documents come in, it could change their qualification status. So a pre-qualification means that a loan officer has reviewed a credit report and has taken financial information verbally from the potential borrower, and based on those two items, they seem to meet program guidelines, and they seem to qualify for X amount in purchasing power. And that's why I tell people, I'm like, it's kind of like a skeleton. It's a skeleton, it doesn't have all the meat on it, but it's got some valuable information. A pre-approval is when we collect all of that information, and you can submit it to underwriting without a property address to verify that all their numbers given in pre-qualification are valid and are accurate.
And
that's all it means.
And now, from a seller's standpoint, if I'm the seller, I'm not very impressed with the pre-qualification because
it's a good jumping off point, but don't count your house sold yet.
Yeah, really.
I mean, I know that sounds horrible.
Yeah.
I very, very, very rarely, I do not give out pre-qualifications on people that I don't believe qualify. If I think that there's something questionable when I'm doing the interview with them, I ask for further information before I feel confident giving them a pre-qualification.
Yeah. But if they've been pre-approved, does that mean it's been through underwriting and in other words, all the information has been verified and checked out?
That's right.
It's not
Either
just the word of the buyer.
It's been verified by documents, or it's been through underwriting and it's actually been underwritten. Every company is going to be different with how they handle pre-approval.
Okay. So we want to make sure we get pre-approved.
Yeah. I always tell people with new trade laws, it kind of makes it a little bit difficult because I cannot require any sort of loan documentation prior to a contract and prior to a loan estimate. I can request it, but I can't require it. And that's something that's very new. So I always try to encourage prospective buyers when I send them their laundry list of documentation that we need to go ahead and collect it and get it to me as soon as possible. Number one, it gets my eyes on it to see if there may be a potential hiccup. But number two, it's less that you have to do once you have a contract and you found a house.
Yep. Well, I want to throw this out here, and this is something I wanted to touch on anyway earlier, but I'm glad you're on now that you can address some of this. And I'm certainly not trying to throw anybody under a bus and throwing out names and stuff like this, but you got buyers that are looking to buy new homes, and we got a lot of new construction going, and that's all good. That's wonderful. But if you are a buyer and you are thinking about buying a new home, one of the things that you want to be very careful of, or at least you better ask a lot of questions about, a lot of builders will tell you if you use, they'll offer incentives for the buyer to use like their attorney and their preferred lender. And the incentive is, and there's nothing wrong with offering the incentive. Now, they can't tell you who you have to use, but they'll say, but if you want to use our lender, for example, then we'll pay your closing cost. And Erica, I got to tell you, I'm not buying that. First of all, the builder's not paying it. They're pushing it off on the lender. Well, the lender's not paying it.
Sometimes no.
Yeah. What they're doing is, say you got $5,000 in closing costs, they're just tacking it on the back end of the loan. So you don't have to pay it at closing, which is
most of the time, yeah.
Yeah, which is driving up the cost of that loan.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to make sure. So anybody that's looking at buying a new home, and when you're told that, you need to ask some questions. And if any other agents are out there listening, make sure you help your buyer address these concerns, because I'm going to tell you, some of these statements I just think are very misleading. If you're telling me that you'll pay my closing costs, that's different than tacking it on the back end of the loan and making my loan more expensive to me. But are you seeing that? Am I right about that?
Most of the time, yes. Most of the time, the lender is just pricing the interest rate of the loan. So the profitability of the loan pays for those closing costs. Most of the time, yes, that is the case. So, where you may have thought your rate's going to be 3.75, it turns out to be 3.99. And they don't necessarily disclose that to you sometimes.
Yeah.
The other issue that has come up is buyers are a little bit unaware of what closing costs are. They think closing costs includes everything, and sometimes the lender or the builder they're not differentiating between actual closing costs and then prepaid items.
Yes.
So the buyer thinks that everything's being covered for, and then they get their final numbers, and they actually owe $1,400 at closing for their prepaid items, which would be the first year of homeowners insurance, any escrows if they're escrowing, and then their prepaid days of interest. So it's okay if that's what the agreement is. It's just, it's one of those things where I'm like, buyer beware. It's not always bad. Sometimes I have run across some preferred lenders where they actually pay the closing costs. They don't mess with the rate, and they actually pay the closing costs. That's great. That's wonderful. It's just good for agents to make sure that your buyers are educated so that they can make informed decisions.
Well, Erica, I can't thank you enough, and we're under a minute before we have to take another break. But I want to make sure everybody knows how to get in touch with you. So how can we do that?
You can reach me on my cell phone. My number is 803-528-5019. You can email me at ewest@mortgagenetwork.com, or you can find me on Facebook. Just search for the Mortgage Go-To Gal.
Mortgage Go-To Gal. Miss Erica, hope you have a great weekend.
You too. Thanks, Frankie.
All righty. You take care. And again, if you're riding down the road, you can't make that or couldn't write that information down, again, as always, go to my website, which is just frankiegriffin.com, frankiegriffin.com. You'll see a link there for Real Estate Partners. Click on that, and there you'll find Erica West and everybody that I know and trust that can help you in a real estate transaction. So just check them out if you need anything at all. Got to take another break, but on the other side, we're going to talk about how buyers can put themselves in a better position in a seller's market. Be right back with some more Success in Real Estate.
And 1470 AM.
All right, good morning again. Welcome back to Success in Real Estate. I'm Frankie Griffin, broker in charge and appraiser, and we're here to help you, and that's what we want to do when you're buying and selling a home. And love to hear from you. If you have any questions or comments, really anything about real estate, but especially if you're looking at buying a house or selling one, and maybe you've got some thoughts in your mind on how to handle the buyer or the seller, depending on which you are. Love to talk about that. The number in studio is 799-8255. Of course, the area code's 803-799-8255. Now, buyer, here's the problem. And if you've been listening to the show from the beginning, we're talking about we still have buyers and buyer agents trying to practice the same way as if we were in a buyer's market, and that's just not. It's just not going to work out very well. You can't expect to be pushing the seller around and making demands because you know you're likely going to be the only buyer they're going to see. Sellers know better. That's not going to be happening most likely today. So here's some things I think would be very important to consider for sure. Most buyers not just want, but need some seller concessions. And there's a few things we could talk about there, but primarily closing cost. We're finding a lot of buyers, they can qualify for the loan and they can get the loan. That's not the problem. But there may be a problem having to bring enough cash to closing to pay for either down payments or closing costs and things of that nature. So for that reason, I think a lot of buyers are still requesting or expecting the seller to help out, to at least pay some, if not all, of the buyer's closing cost. We're still seeing that today, so that's still pretty much market-wide, so that's not unusual and nothing wrong with asking for that, buyer, if you need it. But I'm just telling you, it's not going to work if you come in with an offer, and the seller considers it a lowball. So in essence, you just slapped the seller across the face, insulted them, and now you're asking for favors on top of it. Again, that strategy's not going to work in this market. It's just not. So especially, buyer, if you know you're going to need seller concessions, closing costs, for example. And sometimes buyers even need help with certain inspections, like the heating and air inspection and the CL100 or the termite inspection. Those are two very important inspections where maybe the buyer may request the seller have those done, and I say have them done, meaning pay for them and provide them to the buyer. Again, if you're going to be asking for stuff like that, then you're going to have to be very reasonable with your offer in terms of the purchase price. It's just not going to work out for you any other way. So just keep that in mind when you are making your offer. Now, first of all, what kind of offer should you make? And in fact, let's go ahead and talk about that. Trying to find my page with all my notes on it, but if you're ruffling around, I got a lot of paperwork here to cover in about 3 minutes, and I think we can do it. But anyway, I do believe, buyer, you're going to be very well served to have an experienced agent making offers for you today. The last several years, it has not been that difficult for the buyer. Mainly just get a contract of sale, which is already pre-printed. Agent can go in there and fill in blanks, and hopefully we can get everybody to agree and we can go to closing. But it's just not going to be that easy in a seller's market. Now you got to know how to structure this contract that would best represent your buyer. And and just filling in blanks. I know it seems like, well, how hard can that be? Well, you're going to be surprised, because if it's not completed properly, you're going to have a lot of problems. In fact, even the underwriter for the buyer may have some issues with the way contracts are written up because of things that have been added to the contract, or in some cases just never put into the contract. So we got to know what goes in there. So having an experienced agent is going to help you with that a lot. But when you go to make your offer, first of all, there are some things that when you're walking through the house, you probably notice that might be issues. Things that are broke. Maybe got a broken window, or the carpet's in very poor condition. Something doesn't work. Then, buyer, you know that before you make the offer. So when you make the offer, and assuming those are things you know you're going to expect to be fixed or repaired by the seller, then you need to address those things in the contract. You need to write it in there. Ask the seller to, replace the broken window, replace the carpet, whatever those things are. Then you need to go ahead and ask for it, because what a lot of buyers, because of the recommendations by many agents, they will say, well, don't worry about that. Let's just get them to see how low we can go on the offer. And then now you've got a due diligence period. You got 10 business days to have these inspections, and obviously the home inspector is going to write this stuff up. Then we can use the home inspection as a tool to force the seller to make these repairs. Buyer, I'm just telling you, that's not going to work today. If you've got an agent telling you this, it's going to backfire, and it's going to keep you from getting the home that you were really hoping to get. Because in essence, what you're doing, you're trying to convince the seller or get them down to as low as they can possibly go. We want as low a sales price as possible. But then, buyer, now you're expecting the seller to put the house back in new condition at the sales price you've agreed to, and that's just not going to happen. The sales price we agree to includes those known issues. It's priced because of the issues that we already know about. So a little bit of an ethical situation there at the very least, where you go in expecting the seller to make these improvements, but you also expect them to sell it at the unimproved price. And that's just not right. Again, sellers, they know they don't have to put up with that today. They may not get you to buy it, but they're not real worried about it, because they know there's going to be another buyer coming down the road that will be a little easier to deal with. So just be careful about all the demands you put on the seller today. Now, if it's a house you don't care, you can live with it or without it, then, hey, give it a shot. I mean, what have you got to lose other than the house? But if that's not a problem to you, then don't worry about it. Just go ahead and make whatever offer you want. But buyers, look, you need to understand this inspection process, the due diligence process, and hopefully with an experienced agent, they can walk you through that. But you're going to have some stuff that's going to show up on a home inspection. Especially if you got a 20-year-old home, there's going to be some faults. There's going to be some defects. That's what you're going to get. Now, if you want the seller to pay it, then you got to pay the price that includes the house fixed up. Otherwise, if you're wanting a newer home, then maybe you need to start looking at some new homes. Talk to a builder or something like that. But again, and I don't want to just drive you nuts by saying the same thing over and over again, but I'm going to drive this home. Buyers, you're not going to get away with the stuff today that buyers have been able to get away with for the last several years. Now, I know Columbia is not like Charleston, but just as an example, and I've been talking to a lot of agents in Charleston. Now, Charleston is not just a seller's market right now, but a huge seller's market. to the point where if you go to make an offer, if it's less than full price, you can just about forget getting that house. In fact, you can almost count on a multiple offer situation, meaning you may very well have to have a contingency or an escalator clause in your offer, meaning you'd be willing to say, in other words, here's my offer, but if you've got another offer better than this, I'd be willing to go up a certain amount or a certain percentage or whatever. But that's where they are in Charleston, and Columbia may not be that far away from what I'm seeing. So it's very important to understand the market you're dealing with if you, in fact, want the house that you're looking at. So I know I think we're about, how much time we got, Brian? We got 5 seconds, not a whole lot. Okay, well, we got one more segment to go. Love to hear from you. The number 799-8255, 799-8255. Be right back with Success in Real Estate.
Radio experience. This is The Point. 95.9 FM and 1470 AM.
Hi, good morning and welcome back to Success in Real Estate. I'm Frankie Griffin, broker in charge and appraiser. Thank you for joining us this morning. Got one more segment to go. Love to hear from you if you have any questions or comments about anything I've said. I'd love to hear from you. Number here in studio is 799-8255. Again, 799-8255. And I actually have a featured property I want to touch on or talk about real quick. So if you or somebody you know may be looking for some property with some acreage, we've got a property here. It's over in the Leesville, Batesburg, Leesville area of town, or part of town. It's about 1,900 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. There's hardwood floors, and there's some carpet, but mostly hardwood floors throughout the house. But it's sitting on 8 acres of land now, and it's a lot of that 8 acres obviously is pasture, and it's fenced in. In fact, the owner had some horses there, and so if you've got horses, obviously this would be a really good opportunity. There's actually a horse stable also, but really nice, very grassy pasture area. So if you have, might even put cows in there, I guess, if you wanted it, but certainly horses. It's very nice. Includes a refrigerator. It's got a gas range in it. It's got a garage. And I think it's very nice and very well priced right now at $180,000. So for $180,000, get a 1,900 square foot home with a garage and 8 acres of land. Now, I'll also just tell you, on the back of the property, there's an old farmhouse that is included. I mean, it's on the property. But it is not habitable at all. You cannot live in it. But in fact, what the previous owner, or well, I guess current owner, has been doing with it, they've actually been pulling some of the wood in this old house out of the interior and making furniture with it. But there's still a lot of wood and stuff left in this house, so there's a lot of possibilities with this old farmhouse. But like I said, it's not habitable right now, at least the one on the back. But the one up front, very nice. Brick home. It's all brick. Very nice. So love to show it to you. If you would like to go take a look at it, just give me a call. I'll give you my cell phone. My cell phone is 803-315-7303. One more time, it's 315-7303. And again, if you couldn't write any of that information down, just go to my website, go to frankiegriffin.com, if you remember that, just frankiegriffin.com, and there you'll find all my contact information. And there's a lot of stuff on there for buyers. There's just good information. I've got a buyer link. You can go on there. There's all kind of stuff there for buyers to think about and consider to put yourself in the best position. Also, if you're selling your house, same thing. There's a tab for sellers. Just click on that. A lot of good information. Maybe you would like to search the MLS. Do it yourself. Again, you can do that from my website. Now, if you're going to search the MLS, and because I don't want this to confuse you when you first go onto my website, at the very top of the home page, you'll see where you can enter some search criteria. That's if you want to search properties that I personally have listed and have on the market. But if you want to search the entire MLS, if you look down the right-hand side of the home page, there's some more links. Just go down to where it'll say search the multiple listing service or search the MLS, and there you've got the same access that I have to the MLS. Now, obviously, you won't be able to add anything or take away anything, but you can see what properties are available. So, again, just go to my website, frankiegriffin.com. All right, in the remaining time that I do have, I want to talk a little bit about, since we've been talking about buyers and things buyers need to be concerned about today, I want to touch on a little bit of buyer etiquette. Buyers, when you go in looking at homes for sale, first of all, if you want to impress the seller, always make sure you've already been pre-approved, not pre-qualified. We talked about that with Miss Erica West. That's very important to go ahead and get that out of the way. In fact, a lot of sellers today, they require that you must be pre-approved before you can even come in and look at their house. And rightfully so. I know buyers, you're thinking just looking at a house, but you got to understand, you're not just looking at a house. This is someone else's home. This is their personal residence, and they have opened the door for serious buyers to come in and take a look. This is very inconvenient for sellers, as you could very well imagine. So it's just so important to be very respectful when you're going into another person's homes. Now, some things that I have personally witnessed buyers doing that would be, in my opinion, a no-no, and one is don't touch the thermostat. Everybody likes it to be a certain temperature. Everybody's different. I understand that. If you walk into a house, and especially this time of the year, if it's kind of cool or chilly, well, obviously, that's the way the seller likes it, and that's their home, not yours. So you got to make sure you can't touch the thermostat, because more times than not, buyers going in, they'll jack the heat all the way up and then leave it that way. Then the seller comes home and it's 90 degrees in their house, and their light bill is going to be $800 this month, because of a buyer that was not being very respectful. So we certainly want to be careful of that. Well, let's go straight to our phone lines, where we do have a phone caller. Well, we got James on the line. How you doing, James?
It's a mighty fine day today, Frankie.
Isn't it, brother? It's a fine day today. What's going on?
I heard your segment earlier, and then I got a call, and I came back, so don't know if y'all talked about it anymore. But you're talking about the seller's market and buyers coming in and making an offer. So I'm a buyer's agent. Happened to me recently as well. My buyers wanted to make an offer that equated to about $10,000 less than the list price, and we asked for concessions.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't even get a response back.
Yep.
And so when I pressed for a response, we ended up getting one, and the response from the seller was, we really feel like we're too far away apart from each other to even try to, bring this deal together.
Yep.
So it prompted us to have to sharpen our pencil and put together a better offer. But what I wanted to say, Frankie, is, coming out of the last 3 years of it being a buyer's market, buyers have to feel like, even if it's psychological, they want to feel like they got a deal. They want to know they've gotten some value. They don't want to feel like they just paid list price and that's all they got. It may be a psychological thing, but they want to feel like that it was a win-win. We gave some, seller gave some, but we got a deal. And that's changing. So you're exactly right. I mean, we had to sharpen our pencil. We ended up paying. Well, we didn't pay list price, but it was a lot stronger offer when we went back the next time.
Well, James, I really appreciate you calling in and sharing that, because I've been seeing that a lot myself, and thank you so much for that. And we're about out of time, but I hope you have a wonderful weekend and look forward to hearing from you in the future.
Thanks, Frankie.
All right, buddy. Have a good one. Yeah, and I understand everybody wants to feel like they win, and I'm just going to tell you, at least for me, I feel like a win is when everybody gets a fair deal, and that's what it should be about. Buyer, you can't, just because the sellers might still have a few drops of blood left does not mean you lost. You don't have to try to drain them for everything. You just want to get a fair, equitable deal, and for both sides. So my goal is, when we get up from that closing table, we're all friends. We still respect each other. We like each other. We're still friends. So anyway, hope that helps you a little bit. Please be careful out there. Be safe. Happy Valentine's Day. Be right back next week with some more Success in Real Estate.